Hello students, this is Dr. Jayashree B, Assistant Professor of English, GFGC Car Street, Mangalore. Today let us discuss the topic prescribed for your syllabus, paper 5, Picture of Dorian Gray by Oscar Wilde. So, as you know, Oscar Wilde is a late Victorian writer and quite controversial even during his lifetime. But his ideas are quite modern and are relevant even till now. So, if you look at 1984, the novel is highly modernist in spirit. So even the Picture of Dorian Gray is quite modernist in its spirit, even if it belongs to the late Victorian era. So interestingly, both novels are about the corruption of human soul, which is point to be considered. So Oscar Wilde is an Irish poet. Irish poet in the sense he was born in Ireland, Dublin, and his parents were highly educated intellectuals in a way. William Wilde, his father was a surgeon, medical profession. He was interested in Irish folklore, and his mother, Jane Wilde, she also was a human rights activist, nationalist in spirit, and she used to write poems under a pseudonym. So that way, Oscar Wilde as a child had quite a lot of intellectual background. He was the second child of his parents. And he was quite a brilliant child, and he used to dress up in a very careful manner, even as a child it seems. Like he used to, while going to church on Sundays, for example, he will put a silk hat, unlike his other friends. Similarly, during his teenage years also, he would dress up in a very flamboyant manner, which was, which differentiated him from other people. He studied at two colleges, Trinity College and Oxford. So Trinity College in Dublin, he was studying classics, Roman and Greek, and he got even a gold medal award. Later he got a scholarship to study in Oxford, Magdalen College, quite a prestigious award. There in Oxford, he came under the influence of this Walter Pater, pioneer of aesthetic movement. So this was a major turning point in Oscar Wilde's life. I hope you know a little about aestheticism. No? Aestheticism is a movement during the late Victorian period. It was a kind of a reaction against the utilitarianism movement. So that way, the theory said that art need not serve any purpose. Art for art's sake. The purpose of art is only beauty. Art is an end in itself. Say a work of art will give you happiness. So that itself should be the aim of art, not some teaching or didactic purpose. So Oscar Wilde took it quite seriously. According to him, life should be lived like art. That was his purpose. So even in the novel, The Picture of Dorian Gray, you have similar ideas being reflected throughout. Now he is quite an achiever, this Oscar Wilde. He traveled in America. At that time itself, he was quite famous as a journalist, playwright, essayist. So very funnily, around 140 lectures he gave in America, that too in 9 months. So in the beginning, he was slightly nervous, it seems. So even as he was about to descend, many journalists were there. So in order to conquer his nervousness, he has dressed up in such a flamboyant, in so different manner that all the journalists were shocked to see him, it seems. All in all, he was a huge success. He had a huge fan following. People used to write poems on him. So such was his, fame and popularity. He lived life to the dregs, you can say. As a writer, Wilde sought to transpose the beauty he saw in art to the daily world. He lived for this movement, aesthetic movement. Then major works, Ravenna, it got an award for the best poetry award prize in Oxford. Later he wrote the other collection of poems, but he is mainly remembered for his short stories, The Happy Prince and Other Stories, Children Fairy Tale, then House of Pomegranates. This is his witty play, A Woman of No The Importance of Being Honest. A wonderful drama full of cleverness, wit. See, Oscar Wilde's speciality is he makes fun of the Victorian hypocrisies, shallow superiority, so-called Victorian greatness. He pricks the prim and proper, so-called gentlemanliness of the Victorian period, like that. The picture of Dorian Gray, which you are about to study, no? That is a very famous novel, by Oscar Wilde. He has written essays also. For example, The Soul of Man Under Socialism. Lady Windermere's Fan is another famous essay, novel. The Picture of Dorian Gray. It is about a young boy called Dorian. The story begins with the man painting a picture of Gray, who has a face like ivory and roses. A very young boy, around 19-year-old. The protagonist makes a Faustian bargain. Now, what do I mean by Faustian bargain? See, there is a drama written by Christopher Marlowe called Dr. Faustus. In the drama, Dr. Faustus, makes a pact, a deal with the devil for 24 years of luxury. He wants to know quite many things, resembling a Renaissance passion for new knowledge. So the novel has the central theme of the juxtaposition of art and real life. See, in the drama, Dr. Faustus, what happens? Now, at the end of his life, Dr. Faustus realizes, that he should not have sold his soul for a devil, but it is of no use. Similarly, in this novel also, Dorian Gray, being a young man, suddenly becomes aware of his beauty when he looks at the painting by Basil Hallward, a painter. There are two figures, important figures in the novel, Basil Hallward and Lord Henry. Both of them represent the Victorian, upper class society. Even Dorian is quite rich only. He has a huge inheritance from his parents. Rather his, grandfather. But what happens? Both of these people do not exactly guide Dorian. Rather, they both of them admire Dorian to the point of adoration. There are homoerotic undertones in the novel. Anyway, Dorian, by looking at his picture, suddenly becomes aware of his own beauty. So then he says, then he wishes, one day I will become old and wrinkled, but my portrait will remain the same. If only it were the other way around. If it were the picture which grows old and I remain the same. It is a wonderful moment in the novel. Dorian's wish actually gets fulfilled. He becomes aware of it later on, but it is against nature. No, aging is a fact of life. The moment people try to transgress it, tragedy is the result. From time immemorial, people have been trying to defy aging, trying to discover potions, etc. Anyway, Dorian becomes aware of his beauty, which is a turning point in his life. Especially Lord Henry says, Dorian, you do not have to do anything. Your life itself is like a work of art, like that. So what happens? The Dorian becomes a narcissist in a way. I hope you know about Narcissus, person in a Greek legend. Who was so handsome that everyone used to love him. But he becomes aware of his beauty after looking at his own image in the, river. He falls in love with his own image, starts pining for it, and ultimately it dies of starvation. It was because of a curse by Nemesis. He was, cursed by this nymph. That is another story of Narcissus and Echo, which you will study in the further slides. All in all, the story is about the hypocrisy involved. That is one theme. One is the hypocrisy of Victorian society. Major theme is that of youth, beauty, art, and also the concept of punishment. Very paradoxically, in the novel, though Oscar Wilde does not particularly speak about morality, the protagonist gets punished. In a way, it is almost like a Victorian, concept of morality, the good getting rewarded and the evil getting punished, etc. Like that. Anyway, let it be. So now, what makes Oscar Wilde special is, he was a wonderful novelist. He observed human behavior and wrote about it in such a clever, witty, refreshing manner in his writings. See, if you read the picture of Dorian Gray, the preface itself contains around 22 epigrams. All art is entirely useless. For, wonderful sentences, many of his quotations, have become so popular. For example, every saint has a past, every sinner has a future, like that. Fine. And he was daring to expose the hypocrisies of the Victorian society. Now, the Victorian society was not as good as it is represented to be. In his novel, Oscar Wilde represents all these facts. He exposes the underbelly of the society, especially of the upper class society. The novel is also about appearances, realities. As Dorian belongs to such a high strata of society, he can get away even with the crime, like that. Then Oscar Wilde's importance is his own life. His own life was so dramatic and flamboyant, and he lived whatever he preached, especially regarding this aestheticism. His own life is not less of a novel. he had a love affair. I mean, he had loved his childhood sweetheart. She declined to marry, and then parentage was okay. His homoerotic tendencies, first with the Robert Ross, who seems to have introduced him to homoeroticism. Next, his own strong feelings for this person called Bosie, Bosie, Alfred Douglas, which resulted in a court case. So this court case literally shook him. Later he wrote this epistle, no, De Profundis, and later he did reconcile with this boy, but he died. After 2 years, he died. 2 years he was sentenced to death. After release, he had a reconciliation, but he was much castigated in society. And after around 46 years of age, he died out of meningitis, and he died in poverty and ill health. His marriage also was not a success. He married this Constance Lloyd, but the marriage was not that happy. He had 2 children, but later, due to many reasons, they were separated. That's all. All in all, his contribution is quite great to English literature. Dear students, I hope I have given you some facts about the novel. See, published in the year 1891, the novel has been charged with the neo-eroticism. Very paradoxically, after 1 century, the Church of the Vatican declared that this is okay. Reconciliation with Oscar Wilde. For lucid illustration of modern society. That way, Oscar Wilde was centuries ahead of his own generation. That is what you could say. Thank you. Good luck.